So, everybody already knows how clever Ryan Reynolds is. He's very funny, he's good at advertising, etc., etc. In fact, his frame of reference is so deep that I don't think we've seen anything like it since Robin Williams. But whereas Robin Williams found a lot of different avenues to utilize it, Ryan Reynolds has not been so fortunate, except in the role of Deadpool. But I think that what really stands out to me about this trailer is how much he and his whole team, although I suspect a lot of this is improvised, so he actually has to know it, how much they know about the X-Men. I think that's absolutely fabulous. There are a lot of wonderful Easter eggs in here, both visually and in terms of the humor that Ryan Reynolds is bringing to the table. Now, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, before we dive into this, a deep dive, this is the shot by shot. It's very much the Ryan Reynolds show, and he's earned it. But that's tricky. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. had the same thing for a while, and everyone loved him, and then it went south. Because, he got rid of Tim Miller. David Leitch seems to be doing a fine job, right? Although I am a little bit nervous about the action sequences. I mean, there's just something a little special to what Tim Miller does. David Leitch's John Wick action sequences and Atomic Blonde action sequences, of course, were also quite good. But then even with the casting of Josh Brolin, I think the other two choices they were considering, Brad Pitt, that was a pipe dream, but it almost worked. He was apparently considering it for a hot moment there. But then also Michael Shannon, and I believe Michael Shannon actually couldn't do it because of scheduling. But as I've said before, I would have rescheduled Deadpool to accommodate Michael Shannon. Or maybe not. Maybe Ryan Reynolds is like, whoo, I didn't want to have to say no. Thank goodness his scheduling did for me. Because I think that both those guys would have been a little bit more on the same level as Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Whereas Josh Brolin, who looks like he's doing a great job, seems more like a tool for Deadpool to play with and Ryan Reynolds to play with. He's more of a prop. And that's fine. Let's see how it shakes out. It's very entertaining so far. So let's go through it. So much to cover. All right, so I love this intro. So the intro, all right, 20th Century Fox, soon Disney. They should have a little thing under it, like soon by property of Disney. And then this opening is great because they're like doing spoofs basically of all the apocalyptic war movies, right? Terminator, etc. And he's giving this big speech about like, you don't know pain like I know pain. And it's funny. Now I love this opening shot because of course the cybernetic eye that Cable has is a big part of the character. And we'll talk about it in just a moment. But the imagery here is pretty freaking amazing. It's downright poetic. So not only do you have the electronic aspect of it, the glowiness, which is so cool visually, but it not only looks like a computer, like a robot eye, but also the way it has the stuff going around it like clouds, it almost seems like a nuclear blast. And so that not only represents where Cable comes from, the apocalyptic future, he's a time traveler, but also what's going on inside the man, right? Like he's just an atomic blast of destruction inside. And it's so cool. It's very, very well done. I really like it. I mean, kudos to the VFX team for what they did there. The character representation and the attention to detail and artistry are all very, very impressive. So he has a cybernetic virus, which basically wants to turn all of him into a machine, and he has to constantly hold it back with his telekinesis. So he's always, he's a little distracted always, and it's also keeping back his power for his telekinesis from full, I believe he also has a telepathic ability. He's the child, actually, it's very complicated, of a Jean Grey clone, Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers. But, that fabled bloodline, if you're into the comics, you know this, that Mr. Sinister is obsessed with, of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. It's supposed to produce something mighty fine, and here's one version of it. So here he is in his future, and the lighting is very good, and they have this great, again, this monologue. And the pain he's talking about, of course, is the techno-organic virus, which is like trying to eat him alive, and he's holding it back. But so he's constantly doing that. I love the teddy bear. It seems like a reference to me to Hope, a child that he, they toyed with it maybe being another, Summers Gray offspring, but they never did anything with it. It's kind of like stupid that Marvel Comics just introduced it only to cast it aside. But it's a part of the Cable character that he babysat for a while. He had some adventures in babysitting. Maybe they'll make a joke about that. But he has this teddy bear. Maybe it's his teddy bear here in this context. But I like it because, of course, we know, just like Boomerang, Captain Boomerang, Deadpool is obsessed with unicorns. So they could bond over that. Unicorns and teddy bears. So here we go. I like, what did he turn? He turns up his gun to an 11. Oh, that's just great. That's obviously a Spinal Tap reference. That's hilarious, right? So funny. Now, again, typical shots from this type of movie. And here he comes out. Now, pay attention to the shot. This is important. We'll reference it again in a moment. But you can already see his green arm, that has to be done with VFX. But I didn't notice it until this shot, where you're supposed to notice it. And they have a funny bit about how they haven't finished the VFX, and they do a great shot at Justice League. And, that's not like, Deadpool says it's not as difficult as taking out a mustache. Hilarious. And I think we can all laugh about that. I mean, it's a great part of movie history at this point. And I think, by the way, from the perspective of the DCEU, they should embrace it. It's part of their mythology. It's hilarious. And, it's very interesting. So anyway, Deadpool's like, I'm going to take care of it if, the VFX aren't ready. So he comes in and he has this little cutaway. It's hilarious. I love this action figure, by the way. I'm like, are you going to sell that? I'd like that. But this is really great. There's a lot going on here. All right. So his Cable voice is very funny too. And then he looks great. And then here comes, and he says, reach for the sky, which is an actual Woody catchphrase when you pull his cord. So I think that's just fantastic. And of course, as I said in my reaction, I'm sure Deadpool will not be able to resist making a Woody joke. Hilarious. And I love that it's like a homemade kind of costume that he made himself for his character. It's so funny. But there's another Toy Story reference in addition to the Green Army Men that you see there. But there's another one. You would only see it if you were going through this frame by frame. But they know that we will, and I appreciate that they gave us these things to discuss, these Easter eggs. So this is hilarious. So they have like a disagreement, and he fires on him in just a moment. Pew pew. And I love that he says, regenerative powers activate. And Cable's like, you don't say that. But it's hilarious. It's so comic booky and cartoony. I just think it's great. I think it's part of what makes Deadpool so relatable. And then he says, I have the stones that'll help you. And if, as many of you already caught on, that's an Infinity Stones reference, right? Right to the crotch. Hilarious. And then he has the ding, and I thought maybe it was pizza rolls or something that were ready, but obviously it's the visual effects are ready. And so he's like, okay, let me see. Where is it? There we go. When they fall down, I had to go back and find it. It happened so quickly. See, he wrote Wade on the bottom of each of their feet like Andy does in Toy Story. Hilarious. He even has like the backward letter on one of them. That's just fabulous. I love it. Very, very, very funny. They should sell those figures. So he's like, okay, the VFX are ready. Now look at this. Here's the same shot, but through the VFX filter. And it looks a lot better. He not only has the robotic arm now, but they've added the glimmer to the eye. That's just great. I think that's great. And he's looking a little bit better. I think Cable looks a little toy-like, actually. Now look at this. This was great. At first, when I watched it just in regular speed, I was like, what are the odds that guy would actually fire right at his arm? That makes no sense, right? I mean, you would think he would fire even just a little bit left to right. It's too small of a shield, right? But here you can see he's throwing up a TK shield, a telekinetic shield. I love it so much. So I guess because he's distracted and having to hold back some, the techno-organic virus, he can't, it would be cooler if he could just put one up, but I can understand needing a little bit of the physical assist to get it done. Like, it's cooler when these telekinetic characters don't have to barely flinch. It makes them like really rock star. But obviously, Cable's got a lot going on. So that's a TK shield that he's putting up when he puts up his arm. It's just fabulous. So I believe this is, the DMC is Department of Mutant Control is what we're guessing. And that's going to factor in here. It's a typical X-Men situation. So you can see a lot of cool shots. Now look at that. This is great. I love all the duct tape, and Deadpool's going to take them out with a brick. But as you can see, these are, not cool people. They have the typical, it's purity, humanity, infinity. And so this is one of those groups that want to, cleanse the bloodline, et cetera, et cetera. They've plagued humanity throughout our history, and even, they're represented often with the X-Men comics, because, the X-Men are supposed to stand for all the groups that are targeted, for not being like the rest. And so it's a common theme there. And I actually think that the metaphor works very well. So this is obviously some kind of facility. And so they're taking care of business. I think Zazie Beetz looks fantastic. But I like how ferocious she is. And she looks the most, in this trailer, she looks the most like Domino from the comics that she's ever looked. So I'm very impressed with it. And I think it's very believable that she's taking everyone out. Now, while she's very goth, I think interestingly, Negasonic Teenage Warhead seems to have cleaned up her act a little bit. She looks a little bit more Riverdale-y, but she looks great. I actually think that Brianna Hildebrand looks very pretty in this shot. I think that her eyebrows are fierce. I think that the hair looks great. This is a little bit like what we'd like to see for Captain Marvel in terms of hair. But the way her eyes light up to match the fire, that's a really nice look. She looks fantastic. She looks even better than she did in the first movie. This is what we like to see from our X-Men. All right, so they're taking care of stuff here. Now this is a little bit of a fight sequence. It seems like, I'm not sure where this is taking place, but you can see, I like that they're showing Deadpool, by the way, more often with that his mask on. I think that's great, and it allows you to relate a little bit more to the character. But he's got a frying pan. I wonder if he'll make a Tangled joke, a Rapunzel joke. I think he's got to. And then, of course, right in the shotgun. Although you think that guy would have seen it. I think there's like enough of a time that this guy wouldn't have fired into the shotgun, but I also think this guy looks a little bit like Tim Miller, so I think that's interesting. Now here's some kind of transport. I thought that was interesting that Cable looks so distressed and like sad. I think for humorous effect because this is a comedy, but I do wonder, it makes me wonder what's happening in this sequence. Now this is a really fake jump that looks really super assisted by a rope that they've taken out in post. I mean like wire work. That doesn't look so great. But he jumps onto the transport. Here you can see they're arming up. And as I said in my trailer reaction, my live reaction, X-Force, that's basically X-Force. So I was like, who are these people? Well, I know that's Terry Crews there on the end. Terry Crews is so funny. I'm so glad he's in this movie. So funny on, I forget the name of the show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's great. I think that's what it is. But he's a very funny actor. He's been in the news a little bit for other reasons, so I hope that he can be back in the news for his talent. So he's here, and I was wondering, who are these people on this aircraft? Besides, well, I said they look like X-Force, so I looked at X-Force's old roster, and I came up with some ideas. So I think Terry Crews might be Bedlam, but he's basically just a human EMP blast, and I feel, I don't know, Terry Crews has a lot of personality, so I'm sure he'll still bring a lot to the table, but if I were Terry Crews, I'd be like, can I have a better power than that, please? Behind him, I think that's going to be a comedic version of Shatterstar. Shatterstar is supposed to be an alien warrior. Maybe this guy just thinks he's an alien warrior. That could be hilarious, but the headgear looks like Shatterstar to me. But right next to Zazie Beetz, I think that might be Zeitgeist, who spits acid. You can see he has like some kind of mouth guard on. So interesting choices for the characters. Now this is Julian Dennison. He's basically like a little boy version of Rebel Wilson, also from New Zealand and the Australian area. And he is from Taika Waititi's really last small movie before Thor Ragnarok, and that's Hunt for the Wilder People. He's very talented, very funny, and you can see I'm glad that he's going to be in this movie, and he's certainly making an impression here in the trailer. That's definitely an inhibitor collar. We've seen them so many times in the comics, not used that much in the movies, interestingly enough. But what that does is it holds back your powers from even being able to use your powers. And you can see this yellow suit is like some kind of DMC jumpsuit for prisoners. And we're going to see a couple of people wearing it in this very trailer. I love that Dopinder is back. You can see they're taking quite the taxi ride. Now, every time I see Dopinder, though, I think about the fact that Kumail Nanjiani says he often gets mistaken for this actor. And all the time people are like, I loved you in Deadpool. And he's like, I'm not in Deadpool. So hilarious. This actor's very funny, though, as well. Now, as you can see, I don't know why Deadpool's taking out that guy, who's obviously another prisoner. But, Deadpool, not one to make a lot of sense. There's Cable making some funny faces. Now, you can see this is another, so you can see that here, Deadpool is a prisoner of the DMC. Was he legitimately captured? Is he infiltrating it? I don't know, but he doesn't have a collar on, so it looks like the collars are coming off. There's another great shot of Zazie Beetz' Domino. I think this is really working. I really am feeling the character here. I wish they would change it in the comic. That's a great place to pause it. But I wish they would change the character. They're relaunching the Domino character in her own comic, but they're keeping her, as a Caucasian character, or, well, she doesn't look like Zazie Beetz, let's put it that way. There's some debate as to what her ethnicity is, even originally in the comic. I think it's pretty clearly Caucasian. But, it boggles my mind that they would work so hard to have build the character up in the movies, but then they wouldn't reflect it in the comics. Although we all know that Marvel Comics under Perlmutter, although he's stepped back, but they don't like to promote other studios' movie properties. But come on. Now this obviously, I'm sure, will prompt a butt joke. Very flexible Deadpool. Morena Baccarin, I really hope she turns into copycat. It's not promising that she's not in this trailer very much, but I like her quite a bit. She's a little annoying. She got a little annoying on Gotham, but she always keeps winning me back. I think she's a lot of fun and she's very game. She'd make a great copycat. Now here, I can't believe that T.J. Miller is actually in the trailer. Now he's from the first film, but he's had quite a problem with some allegations made against him during the current Me Too movement. And so I'm surprised, quite frankly, he's in the movie at all. I guess maybe they couldn't cut him out. Maybe they're like, we got enough controversy with the tragic, thing where the stunt driver was killed. But I don't know. I don't know how you'd not ask about him, right? It's going to be a crazy press tour for this movie. Now this is a great bit. Blind Al points the gun in the wrong direction, and this is pure Ryan Reynolds. His timing is very, very good. His comedic timing cannot be beat. Some people on Twitter pointed out that that's a Goonies shirt that he's wearing, and Ryan Reynolds recognized somebody for noticing that. I thought that was great. Now here, I wish his eye was gleaming here. It doesn't have to always gleam, I guess. I guess it's cheaper for it not to always gleam. But, I like that he just is like, time's up. And then I love that Deadpool says that's some sloppy writing right there. That's great. May 18th. And then right before Solo. And then I think Solo is going to be competitive, though. I think Solo looks good, except for Alden Ehrenreich. But I'm just going to get over the fact that it's not Harrison Ford and pretend it's about someone else, I guess. But so far, I think these both look very good. So I'm curious how you're going to handle it. Are you going to see both? Do you think you might just see one? Maybe Deadpool won't be seen as many times because people will be spending money on Han Solo. Maybe it shouldn't have come out beforehand. We'll see how it shakes out. And it says only in theaters. Some of you thought that might be a hit at Netflix. I think if there's no commentary with it, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think it's funny that they have to specify only in theaters these days. That just shows you how much the business is changing. Because for long, not for long, that won't be the case. And there you go. That's the trailer. And there's that fabulous Flashdance poster. I love the bullets. It's very Deadshot, actually. A lot of the Deadshot imagery from Suicide Squad. And they're actually dressed quite similarly. So anyway, what do you think of the trailer? What do you think of all the Easter eggs in it? What do you think of Ryan Reynolds? Do you think it is the Ryan Reynolds show? And do you think that's a good idea? Can you see it going the way of Robert Downey Jr.? Or do you think that he's good? You don't have to worry about it. Write your thoughts down below. Thank you for, again, going through this with me. And you can check out some more episodes right now.